Ayodhya Prasad Sharma, Hindi. The 30th of April 1909 to 28 February 1972, was an Indo-Fijian farmers' leader and politician, who formed the most successful farmers' union in Fiji and forced the Colonial Sugar Refining Company to make concessions to farmers after 60 years of complete control over Fiji's economy. However, other Fiji Indian leaders formed rival unions and his initial success was not repeated. First trip to Fiji. Ayodhya Prasad was born in Bhutan, a village in the district of Rohtak in the state of Haryana in India on the 30th of April 1909. While studying in India, he learned about the freedom enjoyed by people in foreign countries and decided to go to one of these countries. He persuaded his father to let him travel overseas for 3 years and arrived in Fiji in January 1929. Since there was a shortage of teachers in Fiji, he obtained a third-grade teacher's certificate and started teaching in Gurkul Primary School in Soreni, Lautoka. Due to public demand, he soon left for Tunlia Nadi, where he helped to build a school. There was no syllabus for teaching Hindi, and when the school inspector found her teaching Hindi using a book which aroused nationalistic spirit amongst the Fiji Indians, Ayodhya Prasad was asked to stop using the book. He refused and his registration as a teacher was cancelled. In 1931 he returned to India. On his way to India, Ayodhya Prasad met an American, with whom he had a discussion about the political situation in India. At the end of the discussion he realized that Indians were under the control of foreigners. Not because the English were bad, but because the Indians were not united. Return to Fiji. Ayodhya Prasad returned to Fiji in April 1932 to prepare to go to America to study. To earn money for his trip, he acquired some land in Yalalevu Bar and started cane farming. He worked very hard on this farm but was told by the Colonial Sugar Refining Company (CSR) that most of his cane had turned into molasses and his cane had very low sugar content. The money he received for the cane was not even sufficient to cover his costs. He did not receive any statement from the company detailing the amount received for the cane and the amount deducted for costs like fertilizer. His dream of going to America was in tatters. In the 1937 Legislative Council elections he supported Chatter Singh, who defeated his more educated opponent, A.D. Patel, by a narrow margin, but this result was to have profound implications for relationship between A.D. Patel and Ayodhya Prasad in later years. After the election, people who had seen the determination with which he had campaigned in the election persuaded him to give up his dream of going to America and to organize the farmers of Fiji. Formation of Kisan Sangh. Well aware that there was great fear amongst the Fiji Indian cane farmers of the company, he started organizing the Farmers' Union in secret, concentrating among the young members of the community because they were more passionate and were unlikely to be owners or lessees of property. In September 1937, he held the first secret meeting in Drasa, Lautoka, following the celebrations marking the birth of Lord Krishna. On the 27th of November 1937, at a meeting in Wailali Bar, the Kisan Sangh, Farmers' Union, was formed. The first task for the new union was to find someone to take up leadership of the new union. A number of people, which included A.D. Patel, S.B. Patel and Swami Rudrananda, Chatter Singh and Vishnu Dio, were approached, but all declined the invitation. Undeterred, Ayodhya Prasad decided that the best solution was to learn from Mahatma Gandhi and live amongst the farmers while he preached the virtues of the union to them. He decided to set up tents on company land in different settlements so that he and his helpers could preach from it. On the 18th of May 1938, with the help of his young volunteers, He set up tent on company land starting in Madroga, which is at the southern end of the north-western cane-growing area of Viti Levu, and moved along the coast to the northern end of Viti Levu. Initially none of the local farmers approached the tent, but as the farmers saw the sacrifice being made by Ayodhya Prasad and his young volunteers and the inability of the company overseers to stop him, they gradually started to join up. Following the success of this grassroots campaign, Ayodhya Prasad spent the next 4 months organizing the Kisan Sangh. First, village committees were formed. These committees then met and formed district committees, which selected members for the central committee based on the membership of the district committee. Campaign for cane contract. On the 9th of February, a letter was sent to the company seeking negotiations for a cane contract, but the company ignored the Kisan Sangh. The CSR controlled the farmers through the Sardars, and so Ayodhya Prasad put up candidates in the election for Sardars and won most of these positions. Most Sardars then took advice from the Kisan Sangh on receiving any company directive. On seeing the strength of the Kisan Sangh, the company started issuing statements with cane payments and circulated a contract for the next season's crop, both of which were original Kisan Sangh demands. Ayodhya Prasad and the Kisan Sangh advised the farmers not to plant crops for the following year, until a suitable contract was agreed to. Under pressure from the government, agreement was reached for a 10-year contract which included several concessions by the company and an increase in the price of cane. Involvement in politics. By 1940, the Kisan Sangh had become the most powerful organization in Fiji, and in July 1940 had a membership of 4,245 from a total of 5,918 cane farmers in the northwestern districts of Viti Levu. In the Legislative Council election in 1940, B.D. Laxman stood for the northwestern constituency with Kisan Sangh and Ayodhya Prasad's support, and won easily. On 15 June 1941, A.D. Patel formed the Maha Sangh, in opposition to Ayodhya Prasad's Kisan Sangh. Ayodhya Prasad and his supporters tried to stop the formation of the new union but were not successful. In 1943, Ayodhya Prasad was devastated when some executive members of the Kisan Sangh supported the Maha Sangh in a strike for a new contract, despite the fact that the contract signed by farmers in 1940 was for a period of 10 years. Ignoring pleas from Ayodhya Prasad, farmers did not start harvesting on time and lost thousands of dollars. In the meantime, efforts by the government to restrict the movement of A.D. Patel only increased his support. By 1944, the Kisan Sangh was badly split and A.D. Patel easily won the election for the northwestern constituency seat in the Legislative Council, rebuilding the Kisan Sangh. It took Ayodhya Prasad until 1950 to rebuild the Kisan Sangh so that it was again the largest farmers' organization in Fiji, with support extending to the northern cane farming areas in Vanua Levu, and a new farmers' union allied to the Kisan Sangh active in the Rewa area. He also managed to force the CSR to agree a new 10-year contract in 1950, which gave further increases to the price of sugar cane. In the 1950 election, a candidate supported by Ayodhya Prasad easily defeated A.D. Patel in the Northwestern Indian Division in the Legislative Council. Despite being involved in politics since 1937, Ayodhya Prasad himself stood for the Legislative Council election for the first time in 1953 when he defeated his old foe, A.D. Patel, by 2,718 votes to 1919 votes for Northwestern constituency. In the 1956 Legislative Council elections, He faced opposition from three high-profile ex-Legislative Council members: K. S. Reddy, B. D. Laxman and Chatter Singh, but won easily. In 1959, he lost his seat to his one-time ally, B. D. Laxman, who had gained prominence as leader of sugar mill workers. The Twilight Years. In 1959, Ayodhya Prasad Kisan Sangh joined a united cane growers organization, known as the Federation of Cane Growers, to negotiate the next 10-year contract. Differences again rose between Ayodhya Prasad's and A. D. Patel's supporters, resulting in Ayodhya Prasad's supporters signing the new cane contract, while Patel's supporters went on strike. Ayodhya Prasad and the Kisan Sangh were blamed for the failure of the farmers to get a good deal, and in the 1963 Legislative Council elections, Patel and his supporters won all the Indian communal seats in the cane-growing areas. In 1965, on the eve of the London Constitutional Conference, Ayodhya Prasad formed the National Congress of Fiji and made representation to the United Nations on behalf of Fiji Indians. In late 1965, he worked with Ratu Mara to form the Alliance Party, as Ayodhya Prasad was flexible about the system of voting. Ratu Kamasis Mara found that he could guarantee more secure land tenure to Indian farmers in return for working with the Congress to form the Alliance Party. In the 1966 Legislative Council election, he again stood against Patel, and lost by a large margin. He was disappointed with Vijay Singh for encouraging direct membership for Indians into the Alliance Party instead of through the National Congress of Fiji. He believed that if the Congress had remained a constituent part of the Alliance Party, then Fiji Indians would have had an equal say in it. With failing health, he could do little and the Fiji National Congress was wound up. Ayodhya Prasad died on 28 February 1972. Bibliography. A. P. Sharma. A History of Fiji. Kisan Sangh. Vickers Press. Lautoka, Fiji 2005.